There are actually three types of data that we generally talk about: first-party data, second-party data, and third-party data. So first-party data is the data that you own, that is yours, because you've collected it. Perhaps from your website, your social channels, your mobile app, your forms. It's the data that you owned. Now, even if you're using a third party to provide a service, such as a ticketing company or an online store provider, so long as the way you've set up the relationship, the contracts and the processes are in line with best practice approach to data, that is still considered your data. It's still considered first party data. If it isn't, if it's actually data belonging to that third party, the merchandise partner or the ticketing system, then we recommend you do a bit of work there, because it really should be your data. Now, this is where things get a little bit complicated, because I just mentioned your ticketing vendor and your merchandise, and I naturally referred to them being third parties. But actually, in the context of this discussion, they are considered second parties. It's second party data. It's data belonging to partners and organisations that have an actual relationship with you, but they're still a separate entity to you. So we actually call them second party data. So when your ticketing system provider hands you the data that belongs to you because it's of your fans and your customers, whilst we consider them a third party, the data itself is coming from a second party. It's second party data. And then the last type of data we talk about is third party data. And again, whilst it's provided by third parties, third-party data is actually data that's come from organisations that have nothing to do with you. So unlike them being your media partners or your sponsors or your ticketing provider, third-party data comes from organisations that you've just bought it from. For example, from organisations like Experian or Axiom. You've just said, I want to buy some records of people who live within 30 kilometres of my stadium. So when it comes to this third-party data that you buy from a third party, an organisation that has nothing to do with you, we don't actually advocate it when it comes to individuals, B2C, consumers, fans, customers, because these people don't actually have a relationship with you. They didn't come through any of your digital channels, through your social channels, through your ticketing platform. So the chances of you actually being able to convert them into fans and customers is quite low. Not a great return on investment. However, when it comes to your B2B activities, for example, selling sponsorships, selling corporate entertaining, then we do suggest that buying this third-party data is actually quite a wise decision. And certainly, depending on which data source you're using, you can actually tighten up your parameters, what sort of third-party data you want to buy. All the companies within 50 kilometres of my stadium that are of a certain size or have a certain number of staff. So when it comes to third-party data, we endorse the purchase of that for B2B purposes, but not really for B2C purposes. So just to confirm, three primary places where we get our data from. That's our first-party data, second-party data, and third-party data.